Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm always pretty good, but I heard a rumor. Rumor has it,
You're
not
setting
every,
me up. Go ahead.
we already know each other.
That's right.
No, rumor has it that not every kid's going to show up for every function, summer band, and be perfect. Have you heard that rumor?
I've heard that rumor, but only the worst band directors have to deal with that.
Is that the
Yeah,
case?
that's the case. The good ones, every kid shows up. In fact, they show up 30 minutes early and oil their valves. But if your kids don't show up, if you have some absences, you might as well just, get
Just
out of the
hang it up.
business.
Hang it
Just
up.
hang it up, only the gods of band. Now, and it's an age, it's like washing the dishes, man. It always just reoccurs every single time. You've got to keep working it. So for today, I kind of have an idea of maybe presenting some things and perspectives on what to do for absences for summer band because it does happen to everybody.
It happens.
Yeah, yeah, there's no doubt about it. We've all dealt with it as band directors, students being on vacation during the summer months as we begin marching band. Some things to kind of consider though. Was your calendar out in time for parents to plan vacations?
Hmm.
How soon did you get that information out? And I know you could do it 6 months early and still you're going to have problems. But sometimes it's because we waited too long to give out information. Make sure your calendar gets out to parents in multiple forms of communication, as quickly as you can. So the ones that really value your program can actually make changes. Doesn't always work because sometimes mom or dad, they can only take vacation at a certain time. They might be the low one on the totem pole at their business, and everybody else chooses their vacation, and that's all they get. So we don't want to punish the child for that.
Can I say a quiet part?
Yeah,
Sometimes your kids love band, but their parents are going on vacation when they go, whether band's happening or not.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes that does occur where the child is very apologetic for what happens. So I
It's
guess what
not
we
always
do
the
is,
kid's fault, is what I'm saying.
yeah, not always the kid's fault. Okay. And, did you communicate multiple ways and not just through the students? Or did you give reminders along the way? And on top of that, did you give, this is such a fine line. Did you get out the information too early? If it's like October and you're giving out next year's summer band schedule because you're going to be super early, parents aren't going to know that. They're going to go, oh, well, he'll tell us 100 times,
Right.
as we go. So
That is
make
not
sure,
on their radar.
yeah, kind of time it correctly on that. Okay, so let's assume that for a moment that all of that went well. We communicated with the parents, superintendent, everybody agrees with our schedule. You covered it all. So now we all know what happens next. Dear director,
Mhm.
my child will not be there. Fill in your moment, this time frame in summer band. Choose your own adventure from here as a band director. Here's the following list from my experience. Okay. We had no idea of the summer schedule, and this is not something we can change. Okay. We did not feel like missing a week of band would cause any issues with our child and their performance or placements, since there will be other times they should still sit at the top of the section. Okay. My brother's cousin's uncle's former roommate is getting married. That's a true story, by the way. And we must be in attendance.
It's very important.
Very important. Please excuse their absence, parentheses, because when I do this with the school, they ask no further questions. Think about that one. This fact is important to realize when dealing with band absences. They're very used to calling up to the school and, my son's not going to be at school today. Okay.
Got it.
So don't blame the parents too much because they've been trained that there will be no questions. That's why they get a little sensitive when you start asking questions about it. And for my director friends out there, if you've made it this far, your blood pressure is probably already elevated and your breathing has become quicker. But there's several factors to consider in this situation. So, and I think we've all heard all kinds of excuses and sometimes actual reasons. There was a time during summer band, my grandmother in North Dakota passed away, and I missed a week of summer band as the director. So we've got to kind of go for that. For me, it was always important to consider each situation as it occurred, especially when I had smaller groups. Like when I first went to Throckmorton, there's probably about 50 kids in the band. When I went to Electra, there's about 20. So you've got to really evaluate it on a case by case basis. Don't let anything be the absolute, If you're not here in summer band, you will not be in the band program. Um, we need to remember as directors that while allowing kids to miss for vacations is the path of least resistance for us. Oh, that's going to be okay. But sometimes we forget the other students, the ones that are working their tails off while someone's in a cruise or going to Orlando for a week. And so I throw all those situations out because where I finally arrived, it just depended on the situation as to what direction I went. And it's almost like contrary to the procedures and rules I talked about in a past podcast. But when I did it, I tried to convey was understanding on both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
I can get that, but listen, I'm already going to push on you a little bit
Okay.
because I was the kid that would never. And I think part of that was probably the leadership or the directors that I had and the time period that I was doing it.
Right.
But I had a hard time not actually losing respect for people that didn't want to come work as hard as I was working
Mm-hmm.
for the group. And I didn't miss. And so as a student, I can remember thinking, man, you don't care about this as much as I do.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not sure it's right for a director. This is actually a question in a long form.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's not right for a director to go, man, can you guys believe he's letting us down?
I would never do. Yeah. Yeah. Never do that.
You understand what I mean, though? Whether
Yeah.
we do it verbally or non-verbally. Well, so and so's on vacation.
Yeah.
We didn't say anything, but we said something.
Yeah, my favorite, as you present that is when I go to Clinica group, and then the director will say it's a kind of a passive aggressive kind of way, but they'll go, see where the holes are around you in the drill or in the concert seating area, and text those people to tell them they need to be here. What does that really communicate? That these people had no choice. They're just sitting at home playing video games and they're letting you down. So I'm not saying that's wrong, but I would probably never approach it that way. So, and they'll say, get out your phones and text all those kids that are those empty spots around you. If
But
you have their number, text them.
Even before that, alternates, go fill in the holes. That's your spot.
Yeah. 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 That has to be a procedure that happens in time. I think some things I think about was, one is I was kind of a softy on the fact that they communicated pretty far in advance, regardless of if it was a performance like a festival or whatever. If I knew about it in April that their sister was getting married and they were going to have to go to San Antonio or whatever, I was pretty much a softy on that because at least I felt like I had the respect of them communicating and saying, "Oh, yeah, we got to tell Mr. Lunney, because we're not going to, my sister's getting married and I'm going to be whatever, an usher or something or another, So we have to kind of figure that out. Were they respectful in that means? It wasn't like they just didn't show up. There must always be some sort of communication if they don't show up.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going where I was walking with that other stuff, that I feel differently if somebody doesn't show up, and then when you ask them about it after the fact, they shrug and they go,
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents said, or I had to go do this, or did you think about telling me about that before?
Yeah. 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 They just kind of do their own thing,
which is way different than like you said, here's something that I know is going to happen and I'm sorry, but I can't get out of that.
Or something that's very culturally important to that student, like a quinceanera.
Yeah.
To me, I don't know the whole system of how that works, but I know it's extremely important, So if they have a quinceanera scheduled and I have a rehearsal, then I'm certainly not going to make a big deal about going to a quinceanera, sure. Especially if the month or two prior they said, "Oh, Mr. Lunney, this is what we're doing," and church things, I'm pretty much a softy on that. And probably, I'm sure kids have taken advantage of that at times. But, if they have a church activity, if it's a Wednesday and we're trying to have a sectional and they've got to go to church or whatever. I had one time where I had, a couple of kids talk about a new experience for Mike Lunney. They were celebrating Ramadan. And it was like, and we had like a marching practice. Like, I have no idea what that's about, but I know that it's religious. Right. And so you have my full permission to enjoy Ramadan. I said, right. Don't worry about me. So you've got to make your choices, and it's hard because you don't want to you don't want the kids to get the impression of, well, he just likes that student better, and this student got punished because they didn't show up, that kind of thing.
But there's also, even if you win, did you win?
Yeah, yeah. Win the
Even,
battle and lose the war. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And then also, as the kid's side, the director has no idea if the parents are giving you all the story, so the student may not actually have a choice in the matter.
exactly.
We talked about it before, or they may be making up a scenario. I mean, I've had that happen. I remember going to a football game and there was a kid who was absent. So I marked it on the bus list that so and so didn't show up. We pulled out and left, and I didn't think anything of it. Then we got back from that game and all the kids were unloaded and they were going, and I was going out to my truck and I get this email bing on my phone. And it was a parent saying, Has my son left the band hall yet?
Uh,
So I'm emailing back going, your son was marked absent because he never showed up at the band hall.
mhm.
And so it ended up where the kid had told the parents he was going to Friday night football game. And then he just went out with his buds. He was just going to have fun that evening without his parents knowing where he was at. So sometimes, I like to say, in the words of the great Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So after that point, if a kid was absent, if I wasn't having to drive the bus, I would sit there and I would email out, said, I haven't had any communication. Is so and so feeling bad? Why did they not show up for the game?
But that's
And at least
wisdom.
that yeah, at least that communication went out. So yeah, but I trust all the children and students, but I must verify. I must verify. Okay. And like I mentioned before, in some cases, parents, they don't get any choice when they can take a family vacation, and that's a legitimate reason. I don't want a kid to lose his spot uh, just because his parents have to go on a vacation at a certain time. Um, but there were certain things about that. Now I kind of went on the soft side, but when these things happened, what I hoped was best for the student and the program, because there's other students who were there who were working, and even if it's not the student's fault, we have ways to get around this to make it work where hopefully everyone sees it as fair. One is I never guarantee a spot in the show for any student. I tell them so all the dots belong to me.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. There's one time I had an all-state flute player that missed 2 weeks of summer band without communicating, and she was an alternate. So, and she never worked. She was so disheveled by the whole situation that she never earned a spot back into the show because she just was kind of fed up with it. But it was like, we survived. We went to state marching. So, so
Right.
sometimes it happens that way if there's no communication.
But
But I don't.
that's kind of my point, Mike.
Yeah, but
Nobody's more important than the group.
right. But what I do is I'll put them as an alternate, but they can work their way back into the show. And the alternates have drill that's attached to the band. So they march every Friday night. They march at the Wiley Big Country Marching Festival. They just don't march at UIL if they're an alternate. So I can have that person in that spot. If they keep showing up and play off their music and some other kid messes up along the way, discipline or musically or drill wise or attendance wise, then that's when I switch spots out. So they can earn their way back in. It's not a forever penalty. It's
Right.
not a forever penalty for
And
them.
we've talked about this before. I've been in challenge systems, not just for
Hmm.
solos, but for marching spots. If you
Right.
think you march that spot better, learn the spot. We'll march it off.
Yeah, and I've done that. That's a cutthroat, cool way of doing it. But I tell them, said, okay, now you can earn your way back on the field. Pick the weakest marcher in your section and shadow them.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no, that I did that. I did that. So they would shadow that person, and if they could outmarch him in time, and the other kid messed up somewhere along the way, then we could switch him out. Best performer earns the spot. Who played their music off the
Look
quickest?
at you,
Accountability for it.
cull
Um,
the herd.
Yeah, that's right. But then the kid that loses the spot, they find the second weakest marcher. And so usually it kind of all of a sudden everybody marches really well. And then all you end up losing are the kids who never communicated and the kids who are ineligible maybe and they couldn't be at contest anyway, or the kids who didn't play their music off. So I can't think of a time when a really, really amazing student who did everything they could despite the absences we're not given a spot.
I got it.
We
I
can
got
make it work. But it's sometimes it's fun to kind of stir the pot a little bit.
it. Find
Okay.
the weakest.
Yeah, yeah. Go out there and find the weakest clarinet and march right behind them. Can you imagine being that weakest clarinet and looking over your shoulder? And then, oh my gosh, you know. And in small school, have the student simply, if you don't want to go those other routes, which I understand, the weakest of the herd is not the best philosophical way to do things. But sometimes just have the student make up the hours missed in some form or fashion in a reasonable time. Maybe they have to come to the band hall and practice in a practice room or to make up for that rehearsal,
Yeah.
or you meet with them. And as long as everybody knows everybody put in the time, then it works. It's kind of like I would do sectionals, and everyone had to come to 4 sectionals in concert season, and I'd have them like at 7:30 in the morning, and it would be different section each day. So if a kid missed their sectional, then they would come in. If they were a clarinet, they'd come in and sit in with the flute sectional. Now, was that really the best musical product to do it that way? No, because you got the whole flute section playing and 1/3 clarinet playing their part. But did all the kids see that everybody put in their hours?
Right. They committed for the same amount. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew that. Well, they were here. They got up early. They showed it. Um, I find that it's not exactly the same, but if it's some form of accountability, it helps a ton with smaller groups where you may not have another marcher. I use the term, and I've heard my friends say it, and I've said it. Man, if you're in a small school and you've got 35 kids in your band, if they've got blood in their veins, they're marching.
Right.
If they're eligible, even if they didn't play off their music, they can move their feet. You work with what you're dealt. In that situation.
Little Johnny, give me your mouthpiece. Now go
That's
march
right.
that spot.
That's right. Break the reed right before contest. Oh, the quiet part's been said out loud. Okay. And this next one's kind of tough sometimes. School related absences versus non-school related.
Uh,
Such a fine line, So, how do you punish a young lady who's a varsity volleyball player
Getting
for
ready to say
missing
that. Yeah.
a rehearsal or a clinic or a performance, even if she's in district volleyball championships and I've got a UIL marching contest? But you have that case versus a select team, a traveling team. And then you think it's real cut and dried. It's like, well, no, that's not school related. But we all know a lot of those travel teams are very closely tied to the
Exactly.
varsity level competitors of that school.
Exactly.
You play in that summer league volleyball, so you have a chance to be a varsity, volleyball player. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just the way it is. But I never gave a consequence if it was a school related absence. But sometimes it's hard to decipher, you know. Our school I worked at for 19 years, they kind of had a flow chart, of what took precedence in school related, and the administration would decide.
Right.
And so sometimes I won. So I'd go to concert contests and I'd be missing 4 regional golfers because their event advanced and mine didn't advance. Or I think the greatest one, I'm going to waste your time with a story, but it's great. There's a guy here in town who owns a bail bonds place. He's an Olympic pole vaulter.
Okay.
In his day, went to ACU as an Olympic pole vaulter. His daughter was a really good golfer, played saxophone in my band, but we had area marching and they had an invitational golf tournament, and the school decided that my event was more important. And I mouthed off probably as I shouldn't. And I told the dad, said, well, it's not like she's going to be a professional golfer. Guess what she's doing right now?
I was going to say.
She is a professional golfer. She was, and she's just an average saxophone player, so she'd have been better off going to the golf tournament. So as a teacher, as a choir director, band director, orchestra, it's hard to remove ourselves from thinking our program's the most important thing in the world. And at that moment, I should have just said, now how important is this to her? I know the school said my event's supposed to win, but let me hear this whole story before we make a decision, instead of mouthing off, so, well, she's not going to be a professional golfer. And now she is. Okay.
Hey, short answer here.
Yeah.
It's my estimation that the smaller the number in front of your classification, the harder this gets.
It is.
You share so many kids in so many activities.
But there is not a short answer, but there's a corollary to that, because if you have, let's say Plainview has like 4 concert bands, they have every bit the same amount in their top concert band to issue as a small school, because the brightest, most ambitious kids do all the activities. Now, if you're in the 4th concert band at a school, they'll be there every day. because they're not in other activities, and that's okay. They're a band. I love those kids. They're a band kid. I love them because all they do is eat, sleep, and breathe band because they're not in any other activity in school. But you get to that top wind ensemble, and there's 4 concert bands at your school. That top wind ensemble, they're in one act play. They're in tennis. They're in golf. They're in peer assisted leadership. They're in a million activities. So there was times like at Wiley, even though we only had 2 concert bands, some years 3, there'd be times with school related stuff. Out of a 50-piece band, I would have maybe 15 kids in rehearsal, same as it was in Throckmorton and Electra and Holiday. Isn't that interesting?
It's
You know,
crazy.
so it's not that much different unless you're talking about like the entire program. And you're correct. You're absolutely correct. With a small school, you can't have all the activities unless everybody participates.
Right.
With these school related versus whatever, they're hard to decipher. And sharing kids with another program, or perhaps it's a whole nother podcast. But I will say this about sharing: it's different in every school. And sometimes students do have to make a choice if there are multiple programs. There's sometimes there are at the point where it's like, you're trying to do 15 activities and you're not doing anything well. If
Yeah.
if you quit my program and you're still involved in 6 other programs and you're doing them well, that's that's okay.
Right.
I want you to be in my program, but right now you're not getting anything done because you're trying to do everything. And if you quit my band program, I'm still going to say hi to you in the halls. I'm still going to wave at you at the Sonic. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to be any repercussions or whatever. But sometimes they do have to make a decision on what they want to do. But in some schools I worked at, sharing band kids with other like sports activities, it was pretty much 50-50. In other schools, you waited for them to finish sports before they came to band. And that's just the way it was. So you
Well, I
just have to
remember
figure out what your system is.
you've told us in previous podcasts that you've always been proactive with coaches and athletic directors and principals and whatever, saying, "Look, this is where we are. This is what we're looking at. We share a very important person,"
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of pave the way before that kid has to be put in the middle of it and make that student choose, what do I love most? I'm not sure that's fair.
Yeah. And I would do that with coaches because then we could decide as adults.
Right.
You said, okay, yeah, you're right. That kid needs to be at regional track, or that kid needs to be at this invitational, and they're just going to miss band. We tried never to put a kid in the between a rock and a hard place where the coach and myself were mouthing at the kid, "You need to be here. You need to be here." So I think that's an important thing that, try to keep it with the adults. You
I'm
know,
sorry. I'm still laughing at they're always going to be there.
Yeah, yeah, they're always going to be there. Yeah, they will be. And those are my kids, man. I love my top band kids, but
Those are your retrievers.
yeah, the kids at the bottom of the trumpet section, even in a school that only has one band, those kids at the bottom of the section, they're in band. So we use that to our advantage. It's like these kids love band. They
Right.
they might be 10th chair trumpet, but they're the most reliable trumpet player I have.
And
They're going to be at every contest, every event, everything.
know,
I could make up events and they'd show up.
I wouldn't have responded that way if I didn't have some heartfelt attachment to that saying.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess
So,
one final thing to kind of put the final thing on it, whatever you do in your system, and I presented a lot of ways to do this, right? I mean, a ton of ways to approach this problem, this situation.
right.
Make sure your administration knows what you're doing and approves of it first, because if they don't, you're going to hand to God. I've been in that situation to where I did my thing because I'm the band director and it's my band, and then I'm sitting in the principal's office with a parent, and the principal siding with the parent going, "Mr. Lunney, we never gave you permission to do things that way. This child will be in the band program and they will do this and I'm of the belief that, if the administration disagrees with you, they're going to win."
See if this jogs a memory. Hey, cafeteria supervisor, all the band kids are going to B lunch.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I paid dearly for that one because I just decided it was going to happen, and same thing with any sort of discipline. Doesn't mean you have to spend hours and hours with your principal, but set up your system, what you're going to do for absences, type it out, present it in an email, spend 10 minutes and say, ma'am or sir, do you agree with this, or what do you want me to change?
I'm
And
telling you, one of the loneliest rooms in the world is the one where you thought you were going to win and you found out nobody else thought that.
yeah, you're exactly right. And it's a brutal situation when things don't go your way, because your only other choice then is just go somewhere else. There's a very good, and my band director friends will probably know who it is without me saying, there's a very fine band director who won the state marching championship in a certain classification. And at a school board meeting, he came to present his stuff, and they told him, you're going to have to cut one position on your band staff. So he said, can you give me a piece of paper? He wrote out his resignation
Oh, wow.
and said, I cut myself. And he handed it back to me. Oh, no, no, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant. Then he went to another school in the same classification and won the state marching championship. So your only choice, if the administration doesn't do what you need them to do, in your opinion, they're going to win. The only way you're going to win is find another job. You are not going to convince an administration to do everything your way. But
Right.
simple fact here, whatever you decide in your procedures or whatever, you've got to make sure they agree with. And I would tag this on to it, whether it's a band manual or a extracurricular manual. For some schools, they have one manual for all extracurricular activities. That it's approved by the administration. And it's very open-ended. Don't
Right.
have, if you do this, this is what happens. Don't make it a gotcha book.
And
If you don't show up at summer band, you will be an alternate, because your best kid, something will happen. I don't know, they'll have surgery
right.
and they'll miss summer band. And then you're going, well, they had surgery. No, your rules say. So
And
be
I
careful.
promise you, the other kids will know the rule.
They'll know the rule and they'll want that spot maybe,
Yeah.
so, but Mr. Lunney, the rules are, so make it open-ended where there's a little bit of case by case study.
Yeah, but I'm backtracking on you a little bit. I'm just going to reemphasize
Okay, go for it.
that what we were saying, it's way easier to go to the administration or the school board or whoever you need to go to first.
Yeah.
And say, this is what I think my policy is going to be. And let them say, okay.
Right.
Or I'm not sure that's going to work, and here's why.
Exactly.
At least you had that conversation when it's not a I cut myself situation.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And not that we don't trust administration, but I always tried to get it to where at least they would email me back with their yes or no and their concerns, and then I'd go meet with them, because then I had a paper trail, because sometimes humans, and it's not that I distrust them, they have 999 emails each day as a complaint for an assistant principal.
Right.
And so they might forget completely what they told you, but it's nice to be able to come back before you lay down the law, if you have to go, hey, remember we talked about this. Here's the copy of the emails. Are we still on board? That way there's a lot less discussion. But if you can get a paper trail, it's kind of nice. You can't always do it.
And it's always great to go into, if there is, listen, I'm one of the few people that I know anymore that believes that confrontation doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Right.
As long as the outcome is a positive result.
That's right.
But it's so much easier to go into the confrontation knowing the administration is already in agreement with you and not hoping that they take your side.
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And another level to that is if you can, have a solution. Don't just come in with a problem. This kid missed this much, whatever, and this is what I want to do. And my solution is to have these consequences, instead of, what are we going to do, Mr. Principal or Mrs. Principal?
Sure.
Don't make it their problem. We always laugh because my administration loved it, because sometimes I'd type on my email, to whom it may concern.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's to whom it's about to concern. And they'd know. There was like, oh no, ladies.
Maybe we should have opened. Yeah, should have opened this podcast with that.
Yeah, to whom it's about to concern. So that they know that. Oh no, Lunney's in trouble again. So what are we going to do?
All right. Well, listen. My greatest hope is that everybody has 100% attendance. If you weren't on the visual podcast, I just rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has the greatest summer band and you all are on the road to success. This is the greatest journey you've had. We all hope that this time of year, but sincerely, have a great year.
Yeah.
But don't let absences in summer band kick you off your salary.
Can I add one little tiny thing to it?
Yeah, do it.
Even with kids absent, try not to fret too much about that. Teach the kids that are in front of you.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
And I would, you just made me say this too. Don't make somebody feel like they're not important enough to teach. You're only concerned about the people that aren't here. I'm
That's
here.
exactly right. Yeah, you're so worried about everybody being gone, Mr. Lunney.
Here-
We're here.
Here I am.
You're yelling at us about absences. We're here. You know.
All right, my brother. I'm excited. I think we got a great fall ahead of us.
Yeah,
Talking about the
it's gonna be good.
podcast. I think we've got some fun people that are going to come in and talk to us and share some things. So I hope people get excited for that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I know that you're out there spreading the gospel and helping everybody you can help. So you be safe, and we'll talk
Will
again
do.
soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Derek.
See you, bud.